Okay, I'm really excited about this episode of the podcast. A few days ago, I was having a conversation with Bob, and he said one statement to me that kind of just blew my mind. And he said, wisdom is a choice. And when he said that, it was like the light bulbs turned on in my brain. And I thought, oh my gosh, wisdom is a choice. And after that, it was like God was giving me this invitation of, do you want to choose wisdom? And I just don't know that I can keep this one to myself. I felt very compelled to offer you this invitation as well. Do you want to choose wisdom this year? And so that's what this podcast is all about. I hope you enjoy it. So Bob got this amazing Christmas gift from his assistant, Lauren. If you've talked to Lauren, you know Lauren's amazing. If you've emailed with her.
If you've had the pleasure of emailing with Lauren.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic
She's
part
great.
of the seed team.
Seed team. Sure.
We're going with that today.
But
anyway.
She bought Bob a ornament that is the world's best boss coffee mug from
The Michael Scott coffee mug.
Yeah. From Dunder Mifflin.
In a little form. And it's pretty awesome.
It's really cute.
So, kind of excited about
prized
that.
possession, I know.
Yeah.
It is pretty awesome. Anyway, moving right along. We are talking about wisdom. We're talking about making this the year of wisdom.
Yeah. I think that's what we decided. We were talking about it last night. And
when I say we, I mean Bob and I personally. But I think as we were talking about this, I'm like, I would love to invite other people to do this with us because I don't know. It feels like it's time to start focusing on this. That's how I feel.
Well, and where we are in the world right now, like there has never been a better time. Like we have never needed wisdom more than we do right now on how to live life in the 2020s with everything that's going on.
In the roaring 20s.
Like we don't have to recap it. Like we all know. It's like, it's
right.
just insane. Mm-hmm. And we need wisdom more than ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this kind of started, I would love to start this off by saying I never get a word for the year or a theme, or I'm just not that kind of person. Bob usually tries to push me towards doing that, and I'm always like, oh, I don't know. Feels like too much pressure. It feels like I don't know how to do that. But
But here we are.
Here we are.
You came up with it.
This is actually all me, honestly. And
I hope it's not all you. I hope it's God.
Well, okay. No, I'm saying I'm the one that's like brought this up.
Yeah.
In our family here.
And it was right after I said, hey, I think we should pray and see what God, if he has a word for us this year.
Yeah, but I honestly was thinking about that before.
Oh, there you go.
This was on my radar before.
I think it's God.
Because I had encountered some people, and it took me a little bit to kind of pinpoint what was bothering me about, some of the people that I had encountered. And it was, I realized that there was foolish behavior going on. And it was quite surprising to me because I don't throw that word around very often. I don't throw that word around very often. But one of my friends actually was talking to me about how she was teaching her children that it's okay to be silly, but after a little bit, silliness turns into foolishness. And
at a certain point.
Yeah,
right?
at a certain point. And I loved that illustration of how we can be silly, but once silliness turns into foolishness, then we're crossing a line that we don't want to be in. And so I've been trying to teach that to our 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old, because he's a boy, and it's really easy for boys to just get carried away. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
But after encountering some grown-ups who were still making some foolish decisions, where it was like, I couldn't wrap my brain around why there were some decisions being made on purpose.
Yeah, I think both of us were just trying to figure out, like, why, what's not right here?
Yeah.
Like, something doesn't add up. Like, and especially with, Christians. And Christians who, like, are very seasoned, and it's like, or I don't know if seasoned is the right word, but just been Christians a long time, where it's
been Christians a long time.
Feels like, I don't know, it feels like the fruit of whatever, your life or whatever should be different than this. And I think that's what we identify. I think that's what we came down to, right?
Yeah. And
not in a judgy way, like we're trying to point fingers, but just...
No, but it helped me identify something that I thought, okay, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this came from, is I was like, okay, I'm just going to start reading Proverbs every day because that's a great book about wisdom. Like, it was kind of one of those first things, like a knee-jerk reaction of like, I want to be called wise, so I'm just going to start reading Proverbs. And I don't know. It seems like there's something more to this than just me thinking that that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and I think that...
about it now.
Yeah, and I think that proverb thing, like anybody who's been in the church for any amount of time, you heard that thing of read a proverb
Proverbs
every
a day
day.
Keeps the demons away. I don't know.
I never heard that one, but yeah.
But honestly, I started reading Proverbs 1. Okay, I have read it more than once. Like, I've read Proverbs every day. I've done that at various times throughout my life. And I get what they're saying because in the first chapter, it starts talking about if you do this, if you listen to what we say, like what the Bible says in Proverbs, then the result will be X. And it starts telling you all these things that you will get. I can pull it up for you.
Pull it up. Just read it.
Oh, I changed the translation, and then I didn't know where I had highlighted it. Within these sayings will be found the revelation of wisdom and the impartation of spiritual understanding. Use them as keys to unlock the treasures of true knowledge. Those who cling to these words will receive discipline to demonstrate wisdom in every relationship and to choose what is right and just and fair.
So we're reading from the Passion Translation. Or paraphrase, just so I think most people describe it as a paraphrase a little bit better.
Right. It goes on to talk about wisdom and how she is looking for people. She's calling out in the streets. Yeah. She's looking for people to listen to her.
Yeah.
Which this was one of the first things that stood out to me, is I was like, why are they referring to wisdom as a woman? Like, that is really interesting to me. I haven't taken a deep dive yet, but that was one of the things that I'm like, it piqued my curiosity.
All right. So something that I'm just having this aha as you're saying this is if I think back to all the times I've met with an older mentor who I viewed as really wise, the common thing that I hear is similar to that right there, that wisdom is calling out in the streets, looking for anyone to lay down foolishness and to pick it up.
Interesting.
So
you're right.
Like that's I was just talking to someone recently who I'm hoping I'll be able to develop a mentor relationship with, because he's just he's just really, really wise, and he's probably 20 or 30 years down the road from me. And anyway, and I was having this conversation with them, and he had written a book, and I read a section of his book, and I went and applied it, and I did it, and I got fantastic results. And I told him, and I'm like, hey, I did this thing for your book. And he's like, man, no one ever does that. And people read it all the time. I tell them about it all the time, and no one ever does that. And he's like, thank you for telling me. Because, and that's one of those things where it's like he's laying out wisdom, he's giving the path, and yet so often people will just read it and just go right by.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and it's interesting because, it goes on to say she's crying out in the streets, and then if you don't listen to her, once you get yourself in a bad enough position and you need wisdom, it says, then I'll just laugh at you. And I'm like, this is harsh language coming from our Heavenly Father, who we know is, loving and grace-filled and all this, but this is like really direct, saying if you don't listen, you're going to suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
Don't come crying to me when I've been trying to tell you all along. I mean, it's really interesting.
And what's, I don't know if funny is the right word, but interesting about that. So we just recorded an episode that will probably come out after this where Larry Bird, and maybe I won't give it all away, but long story short, right. Larry Bird was... he was mocked by all of his teammates because he didn't spend his money like a complete idiot, like so many of his teammates did. And they're all just blowing their money on Rolexes and whatever, $250,000 Lambos and all this stuff. And he was being very shrewd with his money and actually investing it.
He was actually just using wisdom.
And using wisdom, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And then a lot of his teammates came back to him when they spent all their money and were hurt. And so they lost their career and they were broke. And I don't know if he laughed at them, but he basically said no, because they came to him asking for money. And he's like, nope, sorry. So anyway, it just reminds me of that. And I'm not at all saying that's an example of biblical, I don't know, whatever.
We don't want to draw that.
Like, I'm just saying it's an observation of what, that's saying.
I mean, so I'm starting to read this and it's just jumping off the pages to me in a way that it hasn't before. Like, I did not realize that the Bible was so clear about if you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you will get this.
And there's a lot of that, especially in the early Proverbs. So I'm excited over this next few days.
And I've read this before. That's why it's just so shocking to me.
Well,
that I'm like, I've known this.
That's why the Bible's living. It's living.
It's living.
It's like as we read and come through different phase and different understanding and different maturity, like there's a new thing through there for us to get, and that's awesome.
So this is kind of the cry of my heart, what I'm praying for this year, what I'm seeking out is I want this to be the year of wisdom.
Year of wisdom.
Because I'm realizing how badly I need to grow in this area. And it's not something that we ever arrive at, right? Until we get to heaven, where we'll be like, oh, now I get it. But like we can grow in this. And I think you said this to me. You were like, wisdom is a choice. Mm-hmm. Like we can choose to listen to wisdom or we can choose to walk the other direction. Yeah. And I want to be choosing wisdom.
Yeah,
I want to
me too.
Yeah, I want to be choosing wisdom. And I want our kids to see that in us. I want when we grow up for us to still have something to give to them, you know?
Yep.
And yeah, I just don't want this to be lost. I don't want this to be lost on me. I don't want wisdom to just go in one ear and out the other. And this is honestly something I've always really admired about you is I feel like when we got married, you were like, I want to be wise. I want to be like Solomon. And you weren't really talking about getting rich, but you were like, I want to be as wise as Solomon. Like he asked for wisdom. He asked God for wisdom and he gave it to him. And so you started really seeking it out. And you are one of the wisest people I know. Yes. Do I get a trophy or something? Sure, I'll make you a trophy. Here, thanks, it's this world's best boss. Okay.
Can we write like wisest in here? World's wisest boss.
No, but it's true. Like you are the person that I go to. If you know those tricky text messages that you're like, I don't know if this is right or not. I always go to you. Thanks, you're the sweetie. One. Thanks, but thinking about that, like we were talking about it, and I'm like, this is kind of where SeedTime started. Yeah. Was you started writing about what you were reading in Proverbs and you realized how much it had to say about money. Yeah. That's really what it was. Like, the original idea for the website in 2007, it was partially financial, but really, like, I think we were going to almost title it something about Proverbs. And that just came out of like what you're saying, just that season of seeking like crazy. And I've been probably for a couple years, like just reading through Proverbs over and over and over and over and over again. That whole season. And it is interesting that the whole thing was birthed out of that. Yeah. Yeah. Keep talking. I'm going to find something. So the other verse that I think is worth bringing up here is James 1:5, where it says, if any man or woman lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach. And I want to emphasize that word liberally, which is so cool. He gives us a lot. He gives us more than we need, and he's generous, and there's an abundance of it. And he, I don't know, that's just always been so cool to me. Like between Solomon asking for wisdom, not asking for riches or fame,
but instead asking for wisdom. And then this verse in James, they're just two great examples that we have of let's seek it and let's ask for it, you know?
Yeah. I love that. So this, in Proverbs 2, verse 4, it talks about seeking it like you would seek for silver. And I think in this, era when this was written, if I lost my wedding ring, or if I lost $10,000, or, a check that was for $10,000 or something, I would be seeking for that for a while.
Yep.
I wouldn't just be like, oh, well, I'll find it later. I'll find it when I need it. I would be like, where is it?
Yep.
And it says, if you seek for it like you seek for silver, then you will discover the fear of the Lord and find the true knowledge of God. And I just started thinking about that, the fear of the Lord. And I mean, it's like, this is what's exciting, is the more you dig into the Bible, the deeper it gets. And I just think that it's fun. It's like, he's kind of like, I'm going to, that scripture that says, it's the glory of man to conceal, or glory of God to conceal a matter, it's the glory of kings to find it out.
Matter, yeah.
And it's like, we have the opportunity to go find these things that he has hidden for us. And I'm just getting excited, and this is only just 2 days of me asking for more wisdom and asking for God to reveal things to me. And it's just coming straight out of reading the Bible. Like, it's not difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't have to fast and pray and just search for the Lord. And it's like, it's just a little bit of curiosity and starting to read the Bible. And it's just illuminating things, making me ask questions I hadn't asked before.
Yeah, a little bit of incentive for anybody who's like, well, yeah, that's all great, Bob and Linda, but what's in it for me?
Oh, right, yes.
So if you dive into Proverbs 3, this is one of those things where it's like this. This is such a powerful thing. I'm just going to read this to you. So Proverbs 3, it says, length of days is in her right hand, and her is wisdom. And in her left hand are riches and honor. So that right there, it's amazing that we seek wisdom, and the byproduct of that is length of days, living a long and fruitful life, and then riches and honor. That's the byproduct of seeking after wisdom.
I'm kind of getting blown away by just the 2 Proverbs that I've read the last 2 days of how it's changing my brain, and I'm seeing the things around me where a lot of people think, well, there's not answers for this situation in the Bible, but for a lot of things, it actually is in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I'm just reading this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that situation that I was trying to avoid, it just is talking about it right here.
Yep.
And it's blowing my mind. And I don't know. I think this is just a heads up, this is what's going on in our lives, but also kind of a, wisdom is crying out to us. I'm hearing it, and I hope you're hearing it too. And I think this is it's time to respond. Let's do something about it.
Yeah.
And that what's so great about it is it doesn't matter how wise you are right now, you can always get more wisdom.
There's no limit, which is so cool.
There's no limit. And so you can be making completely foolish decisions. You can be making really wise decisions. You can be somewhere in the middle and still get a ton more out of this because there's no limit.
Yeah. So I think that's our invitation to you.
Yeah.
It's a great
wants
time.
to read Proverbs with
Who
me?
wants to get wise this year?
Right.
Do you want to get wiser? Why not? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
That's going to be what we're doing.
If this is resonating with you, send this to a friend and be like, hey, let's do this together. Let's read through Proverbs together. I always think things are more fun with a friend. So last night as I was reading through Proverbs, I'm like, Bob, did you know it said this? Have you seen this? And I'm like, why? Again, I was like, why are they referring to it as a woman?
Yeah.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah.
It's more fun with a friend.
It is more fun
So
with a friend.
you can be my friend. You can chat with me all over Instagram about this. I'll be out there ready to chat. But if you have, a real life friend, person that you see on a more regular basis, that would be great too.
Yeah. So follow us on Instagram if you're not already at SeedTime.
Yeah.
Because you'll probably be posting some of this on stories and stuff.
Yeah.
As your mind's getting blown.
I know.
The depth of wisdom coming out of Proverbs. All right, we're gonna read.
I'm 41 years old. I've read this before. That's what's blowing my mind about it.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about the Bible.
That is what's so great about the Bible.
All right, we're gonna read a. This is my favorite book, or not book review. Favorite podcast review. And this one is interesting. Okay, so it appears to be a pretty good review, but it's a 1-star review. So Red Can 2 left this review not too long ago.
It's like maybe his finger slipped. He thought he hit 5. Or maybe it just.
So, or maybe this is sarcastic. I don't really know, but
I'm not really sure.
So he says, spirit-led finances. I truly appreciate how the baseline of SeedTime Money encourages spirit-led giving. Such a great podcast, philosophy, and book, Simple Money, Rich Life. And then like some
with
other
an exclamation point. I mean,
repeating. So I think they like it, but it's a 1-star review.
Red Can
so
2. If you're there,
just FYI, when you're leaving a review, the more stars, the better. So.
Well, yeah, and if you can go back and change it, Red Can 2.
But you know what?
Didn't realize,
but you know what's cool about it too is
happened.
Some people might just go look at the 1-star reviews and be like, "Oh man, I knew that podcast was terrible," and then they see it. Like, well, the 1 stars are even good reviews, so it must be a great podcast. So.
Oh my gosh!
Anyway.
Hopefully, it's just gonna get better and better with all this wisdom.
Better. We're gonna be adding more wisdom to the mix.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. That's your little, I guess this is a devotional, we could call it.
Kind of a
little bit of a devotional for today. And yeah, let's make this a year of wisdom. Let's kick butt this year.
I'm
Sound
excited.
good?
I really am excited.
I am too. All right. That's all for today.
The end.
See ya. Thanks for joining us on the SeedTime Money podcast. And remember, money isn't the goal, but it's simply a tool to help you fulfill your purpose and your calling. And we'd love to help you achieve true financial freedom faster with our email newsletter. So if you want exclusive money tips and hope-filled encouragement in your inbox, head over to seedtime.com to get signed up.